Imagine carrying the worst team in the NFL at the time to a 15-1 record and bringing them all the way to the Super Bowl, all while breaking multiple records, being idolized by all sorts of fans, and being seen as one of the most electrifying and game-changing quarterbacks in the NFL.
Low takes the snap, short drop, hits the quarterback draw, somersault for the touchdown!
Oh my goodness, the legend just goes on!
Now imagine losing all that in just one play. Cameron Drell Newton was born in 1989 in Atlanta, Georgia. His father, Cecil Newton, was a former NFL player who played for the Cowboys and Eagles in the 80s. Cam began playing football very early on in his life, and he knew that he wanted to be a quarterback growing up. Cam Newton would begin attending Westlake High School and would join the football team in his junior year. In Cam's first season, he would immediately start putting up numbers. He threw for over 2,500 yards, 23 touchdowns, but also ran for over 600 yards and 9 more touchdowns. His first year was pretty good, but what made him stand out was his next season. Cam Newton had grown to 6'5" and was a 3-star recruit to begin the season. You could probably expect that Cam was an athletic freak, but scouts didn't really see him as a good passer. One scout that was assigned to evaluate Cam Newton said that this guy at times displayed outstanding arm strength. At other times, he could not hit the broadside of a barn. However, as the season went on, Cam Newton would continue to improve all aspects of his game. He would throw for over 4,000 yards his senior season. Scouts would get to see this new Cam Newton in the 2007 Offense-Defense High School All-American Bowl. This All-American Bowl is played between the best high school seniors in the country, and Cam was named as the quarterback for the East. He would complete 8 of his 12 passes for 181 yards and a touchdown. He was named the MVP of that game and was also now rated a 5-star coming out of high school.
And there's our OD player of the game, Cameron Newton, 8 for 12, 181 yards.
Cam Newton would get a good amount of offers, but he only had one team in mind, the Florida Gators. At the time, Tim Tebow was the Florida Gators starting quarterback. Cam Newton sat behind him as a backup. He would get some playing time here and there, but it was really just garbage time. In Cam's sophomore season though, he would get some playing time in a season opener after Tim Tebow had sealed the game. But Cam would get an ankle injury in the few snaps that he played. After that, he would get suspended from the team after some problems and was almost completely expelled from the university. Cam would make the choice to leave Florida and transfer to Blinn College, a community college in Branham, Texas. There he would join the football team and lead the Blinn Buccaneers all the way to the 2009 NJCAA National Championship, and they would actually win it all in an extremely close 31-26 victory. That season, Cam threw for 2,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, and also had 700 rushing yards and 16 rushing touchdowns. Cam was unstoppable this season, and it's no surprise he was the most recruited JUCO quarterback in the entire country. After 1 year with Blinn College, Cam would transfer again, this time to his final school, Auburn University. And what Cam was about to do with Auburn, I don't think anybody expected. Cam quickly became the best quarterback in training camp and became the starter. His debut with Auburn would come in week 1 against Arkansas State. Cam would throw for 186 yards, ran for 171 more, and had 5 touchdowns. The Auburn Tigers won that game 52-26, and Cam was named the SEC Offensive Player of the Week. But this wasn't a one-time thing. Cam would play like this every single week. 3 weeks later against number 12 ranked South Carolina, Cam had 158 passing yards, 176 rushing yards, and 5 total touchdowns. Cam would lead the Auburn Tigers to a 12-0 record going into the SEC Championship, where they absolutely destroyed South Carolina 56-17. And finally, in the last game of the season, the BCS National Championship, the Auburn Tigers would be facing the number 2 seeded Oregon Ducks. The game was close, but with 2 minutes left, Cam Newton and the Auburn Tigers would drive down the field for a game-winning field goal. And so, the number 1 seeded Auburn Tigers would be named the best team in college football that year, and for the first time in school history. Cam this season threw for almost 2,900 yards, ran for 1,500 more, and had a total of 51 touchdowns. He was named the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, AP Player of the Year, and you guessed it, he won the Heisman Trophy. Many people argue that what Cam did this year, especially with how weak his team was one of the most dominant performances by a quarterback not just in SEC history, but in college football history. Cam was a game changer, and no one could say he wasn't. After 1 year with Auburn, Cam declared for the NFL. But he had some problems with his throwing. He had a strong arm, but he struggled quite a bit with accuracy, completing only 11 of his 21 throws at the combine. NFL scouts also said that he had a few off-the-field issues. Regardless, the Panthers would select Cam with the number 1 overall pick. The Panthers had just come off a record of 2-14 in the 2010 season. The team was pretty bad. That year, they had one of the worst offenses in recent NFL history, but Cam was a massive step in the right direction for the franchise. His debut would come in week 1 of the 2011 NFL season. The Panthers would be facing off against the Arizona Cardinals. Cam would complete 24 of his 37 passes and throw for over 422 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, and also had 1 rushing touchdown. He would lead the Panthers to a record of 6-10 to end the season. Even though it was a pretty bad record, it didn't tell the whole story, because Cam this year was a monster. He became the first rookie to ever throw for over 4,000 yards. He had 21 passing touchdowns, but also had a whopping 17 interceptions. But that's not all. He also ran for 706 yards, which was the record for rookie quarterbacks at the time, and he also had 14 rushing touchdowns, which was the record for the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in a season, until Jalen Hurts broke it by spamming the tush push. Cam was a beast this season, and it's no surprise he won Offensive Rookie of the Year and even made it to the Pro Bowl. Everyone knew who Cam Newton was, but the thing that stood out about him was his celebrations. Celebrations were widely regarded as disrespectful to the other team, and they weren't really done that much back then to show respect and sportsmanship, and also because you didn't want to get penalized or fined by the NFL.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
That is until Cam started doing it every week after every single touchdown. This rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. In the 2012 season, Cam would play about the same and would lead the Panthers to a slightly better 7-9 record, but 2013 is when Cam Newton and the Panthers finally started to click. They would start the season 1-3, but after that they went on a 12-game winning streak and would have won the rest of the season if they hadn't lost to the Saints. The Panthers would finish 12-4 and had the number 2 seed in the NFC, clinching a first-round bye and a spot in the divisional round. Cam would make his playoff debut against the 12-4 49ers, who by the way had a monster defense. Cam's first playoff game wouldn't be easy by any means. He completed 16 of his 25 passes for 267 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. He was also sacked 5 times in that game, and the Panthers would lose the game 23-10 and were eliminated from the playoffs. The 2014 regular season was pretty bad, and to make things worse, late in the season, Cam had been in a horrible car accident that left part of his back fractured. The crazy thing is he would miss only 1 game before returning to the team. The Panthers would win the last 2 games of the season though, and clinch the NFC South with a record of 7-8-1. In the wildcard game, the Panthers would face the 11-5 Arizona Cardinals, who had lost both Carson Palmer and their backup quarterback. The Cardinals were relying on their 3rd-string quarterback. Cam threw for almost 200 yards and had 2 touchdowns, and had won his first NFL playoff game. But the next game wouldn't be nearly as easy. Cam would be facing the Russell Wilson-led Seahawks. Cam would struggle in this game, throwing for over 240 yards and 2 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions, including a crucial pick 6 that basically called game. The Panthers would lose 17-31. However, they'd be back pretty soon. In 2015, the Panthers would beat the Jaguars in week 1, and after that they would go undefeated for 13 more games, until they lost against the Falcons in week 16, their only loss of the season. The Panthers ended 15-1 and were the best team in the regular season. But why were the Panthers so dominant this season? They already had a pretty good defense from the year prior, and they got significantly better this year. The defense, led by players like Luke Kuechly, Kurt Coleman, Josh Norman, and many others, had 39 turnovers in 2015. They were a massive reason for the offense being so good. The offense did get some new weapons, but in reality, the biggest change on the offense was Cam himself. Senior NFL columnist Pete Prisco had this to say about Cam. "What I saw was a player who had a much better feel for running an NFL offense, a player with better mechanics with a better understanding of defenses. This season, Cam had more patience in the pocket, had better footwork, and his throwing motion had improved. He threw for over 3,800 yards, 35 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions, as well as over 600 rushing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns. He was on another level this year. In fact, he was so good that he won Offensive Player of the Week 5 times, tied for the most ever in a season with only 2007 Tom Brady. He was also selected to the Pro Bowl, made first team All-Pro, won the MVP, and was named the Offensive Player of the Year. In the postseason, the Panthers would face the Seahawks in the divisional round. Cam and the Panthers were up 31-0 in just the first half, but after that they didn't score at all for the rest of the game, and nearly let the Seahawks complete a 31-point comeback, but they held out and won 31-24. In the NFC Conference Championship, the Panthers would be playing the 13-3 Cardinals. This Cardinals team was a powerhouse in the regular season, and the Panthers would absolutely destroy the Cardinals. Cam had almost 400 total yards and 4 touchdowns, and the defense had 7 turnovers this game. The Panthers handed the Cardinals an embarrassing 49-15 loss and secured their spot in the Super Bowl. But this Super Bowl game might have been the most difficult team that Cam Newton would face in his entire career. The Panthers would be facing off against a Peyton Manning-led Broncos, who had one of the best defenses, not just that year, but in NFL history. The secondary for that defense was named No-Fly Zone, but it wasn't just a secondary. The linebackers and the D-line were also unbelievably good. In only the first quarter, Cam would fumble the ball and the Broncos defense would recover it for a touchdown. Neither Cam nor Peyton Manning could get their offenses rolling. Both teams' defenses were completely shutting them down. In the fourth quarter, Cam and the Panthers were trailing 10-16 with 4 minutes left. It was 3rd and 9. Cam snapped the ball and Broncos linebacker Von Miller came off the edge and stripped the ball off his hand. Cam fumbled and was about to recover it, but then he stopped.
I know you're disappointed, not just for yourself, but your teammates, because you guys talked about how you are a band of brothers coming in, and it's got to be real tough for everybody in that locker room.
Load the box, force y'all to throw the ball. So you throw the football. And that was the game plan. Load the box, one-on-one man outside. They got a couple of big plays, but I feel like and Roby, they're going to come back and make more plays. Right away.
Cam was battered by the media and by all different types of fans. The question everyone asked, why didn't Cam dive for the ball? Well, his first answer was that he didn't want to injure himself.
I don't dive on one fumble because the way my leg was, it could have been contorted away.
And would say that the fumble really wasn't what called the game.
But at the end of the day, that game wasn't built off of, we didn't lose that game because of that fumble. I can tell you that.
Almost a decade later, Cam has said that he regrets not jumping on that fumble.
I should have jumped on the fumble.
Okay.
Straight up. There's no, the competitor in me, if that happens again, duh.
After this entire incident, Cam was seen by everyone as a self-centered, sore loser. In the 2016 season, the Panthers would fail to even come close to the success they had in the year prior. They had a record of 6-8, but something very crucial happened in this season. In Week 14, the Panthers would be facing the Chargers. Both teams were trying to keep playoff hopes alive. With 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Cam threw an interception in the end zone. On the return, Cam tried to tackle the corner and in the process injured the AC joint in his throwing shoulder. He has come out and said that this injury has messed him up for years. The following season in 2017 would be the last time Cam ever made the playoffs. He led the Panthers to an 11-5 record and brought them to the wild card, but they would lose 26-31 to the Saints. However, in 2018, the Panthers would add running back Christian McCaffrey to the team. The Panthers actually started off really good with a 6-2 record, but in Week 10 against the Steelers, TJ Watt would crush Cam's shoulder on a big hit. After that, the Panthers would go on a 6-game losing streak before Cam had to sit out due to a shoulder injury. And in 2019, Cam would suffer a season-ending foot injury, and after this, it was all over. The Panthers would eventually release Cam in the offseason. He would get some stints with the Patriots and later down the road with the Panthers again, but he never went back to that elite level he was at before. Cam Newton had probably one of the most invigorating and game-changing primes in NFL history. He was on top of the NFL world, being the best player in the entire league. But after that fumble incident, Cam was never the same. He was destroyed by the media. Combine that with constant injuries and you completely destroy a great player. But even though Cam had one of the most controversial careers in the NFL, one thing that no one can deny is that Cam Newton was a game changer.